In my previous video, I broke down popular misconceptions Yu-Gi-Oh players tend to have about deck building. Limiting your deck to 40 cards, or maxing every card at 3 can actually damage your consistency instead of improving it. You should analyze the comparative value of each card you might draw. Don't assume that all decks play by the same rules. Today we continue with part 2 of this deck building thesis. I've made some pretty wild decks, including one that combines all the allied factions of the branded lore by using Crystal Beasts as a bridge. I promise it makes sense in context. Don't sleep through this lesson because I'll be explaining the process of how I make these decks, then putting this into practice with the story of how the bandwagoning and groupthink of certain Yu-Gi-Oh communities have gotten some big things wrong. My videos teach how to play a deck and then go over a bunch of options. I try to give you everything you'll need to build a fun and functional deck that reflects your personal playstyle. Many viewers ask me to give them deck lists, especially to tell them what ratios to run each card at, but I really want you to have the experience of putting it together yourself. Building the initial list really is the quickest and easiest part of the journey, and copying someone else's won't teach you how to pilot it. Deck lists are for learning card ideas, not ratios. For example, I've got a Crystal Beast deck here which uses 7 names, no Amethyst, just a single copy of the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. This is the one which gets the big Rainbow Dragon, but by banishing itself, leaving this build with only 6 crystals remaining. If you copied this list and clicked Test Hand, you would conclude that it is unplayable garbage. But for me, it works quite well, because with this build, I use Nemesis to recycle that rainbow, either as part of a big combo or for a turn 1 floodgate. This list was optimized for a very specific playstyle, which I honed after practicing with a higher ratio, which allowed me to make mistakes and continue playing. In other words, this list only works for me because of the time I've spent on a different list. It is not a good starting point to learn from. Especially for combo decks, optimal ratios tend to leave no room for error. You must know how to anticipate in advance where each card will need to be. And as I always say, what's optimal can depend on your personal playstyle and your local meta. Don't copy my ratios, I'm crazy! You've seen the combos I make! You should note that I play Flame Swordsman in my Knight deck, not that I run one with 3 Searchers. Start by testing 3 copies, so it can be available in your deck for Durandal and your graveyard for Joyous. Adjust according to what feels right, then come back to my list and think, he runs that many copies? That wouldn't work for me at all. And then I'll think the same about your deck. We don't all have to like the same things. I like Bran Flakes. If you don't, more for me. We take those. They call me the Bram Burglar. They don't. I paid for these. And this is my ratio because the spells were cheaper and I wanted to save money, and then I built around it. And my decks are constantly changing. To give you a list would imply that it's finished. But if you're watching my videos 3 days after they go up, I've already changed it. No deck is solved. Changing your cards constantly doesn't mean you're indecisive, it means you're testing and learning. You should play bad ratios and silly cards just to test whether your assumptions about them are really true. That's how I broke the best Sword Soul card! Unless you are currently in a tournament, your deck seriously should have some jank in there, because how can you be sure it's a bad card if you haven't seriously tried it? If you're going to test a deck, then really commit to the bit, and I will tell you why. Back in TOS format, I played a $40 Salamangreat deck, combo control, with few hand traps. Sunlight Wolf can do hand traps.deck, but Salamangrates are naturally a combo deck. They multiply the more they interact with each other, and have an easy one-hit kill. Most opponents lectured me on how I was building my deck wrong. It had a 90% win rate. There is something especially freaky about Cookie Cutter Salamangrate. I don't even know how to get into whatever level of groupthink was going on there. People saying, fix my deck, when 38 out of 40 cards are the same as everyone else's. A Discord server full of people who don't know what half the cards do because they never bothered to try them. Foxer was like an automatic win against Striker. Beat Bison negated all the floodgates Orcus threw at me. I put Salamangrate Raccoon in my deck as a joke, and you would not believe how many matches it won me. Try everything. I don't have a pile of Cyburst cards which failed to make the cut, I have a pile of cards which did. In the Crystal Beast Discord, the person who was considered to be their worst player was the only person from whom I learned a combo which I still use today. Something else happens when an authoritative player gives a deck list. Here is our case study. The time is October 2022. Structure Deck Legend of the Crystal Beasts has just released, but Rainbow strategies are still missing some key cards, and Tearlaments have taken over the game, annihilating anyone who relies on the graveyard. Neshi's Conclave Control strategy makes waves as one of the few decks capable of defeating Tearlaments, by ditching the Rainbow to sit on floodgates. Conclave Control was the best way to play Crystal Beasts, at that time. But public opinion did not adjust after that time passed. People forgot that Conclave succeeded by being a silver bullet against a Tier 0 deck, which itself was a silver bullet against Rainbow. When people eventually did realize that Overdrive is possible to summon, it was because of this video, which showcased Jesse Cotton's advanced Crystal Beast blend. It traded the theme's control pivots for a strategy which goes turbo or otherwise falls flat. Cotton proceeded to play a turn solitaire, and the rest is history. This was a cool experimental deck from Cotton, but the general opinion wasn't that it was a cool experiment, it was the word of God. Just like with the Founding Fathers and their experiments and early models of democratic government. Did you know that the United States is the oldest governing constitution still in use today? Not because it's perfect, it's barely functional, we're just too blinded by celebrity worship to fix it! Where were we? One of the experiments in Cotton's deck was Ready Fusion. I remember watching the fusions he used spike on TCG Player in the following weeks as people joined the Crystal Discord to ask what the purpose of those cards was. People were buying these cards not knowing what they do just because they saw Jesse Cotton use them. And because they saw Jesse Cotton use them, they assumed, well, he's Jesse Cotton, so obviously he has solved Crystal Beasts. We don't know what these random fusions are for, but surely we need them. Ready Fusion is the Electoral College. It was a bad idea. Everyone else has gotten rid of theirs. Why are you still using it? What's that? People eventually did stop using Ready Fusion, but we're still using the Electoral College? Come on, Yu-Gi-Oh players! The reason why our government doesn't represent us is because less than half of us bother to hold them accountable by voting! What were we talking about? The board he made in that video was really good, but the general reaction wasn't, this is a good way to play Rainbow Dragon, but rather, this is the only way to play Rainbow Dragon. Never to be questioned, don't you dare experiment with other options. Crystal Beasts died the day that video was uploaded. It shut down all further innovation. I was gaslighted with 100 excuses as to why my successes with a combo control build didn't actually count because Pliny the Elder said that Conclave and Cotton must be the only ways to play. A deck list doesn't have to top any events to dominate the conversation. Remember when ninjas spiked after Cotton used them? Of course you don't. I get that he's good at Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm good at Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I think the bandwagoning is a bit excessive. In the last segment of this video, I will prove that Cotton's advanced blend was never the optimal control strategy, even before Golden Rule, by taking the same draws he did and making a better board. Partly to cross something off my bucket list, and partly to demonstrate why you should never accept a deck as solved. Look at Edison format, for example. The decks which dominate it today look a bit different from what was actually played at the 2010 YCS. But if you're not here for Crystal Beast, I won't make you sit through that, I'll put it at the end. I have no shortage of confidence in my own skills. I have a PhD in dueling, but seeing what that video did to our little community, I don't want to become the next reason why people stop trying to innovate. I don't want you to think my deck lists are solved, even when I created the whole strategy. True to my prediction, when I refrained from providing a deck list for Sapphire Surprise, I saw a whole bunch of fresh takes in the comments. New ideas from players who pick their own ratios, techs, and bosses. Like how you're all running one Brandon High Spirits because it gets searched during the main combo, even though I've never considered running less than 3. It's the best card for unbricking, and even if you do draw it, there are plenty of other branded spells to search for. Just not branded Fusion. I don't run that card, it's garbage. Besides, building the initial deck list really is the quickest and easiest part of the journey. Want to know how I make a new deck? I load up Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, I type in the theme, and I click on every card 3 times, then I click Test Hand. Really, I just brute force it. I trim the cards I didn't like, I add new cards I can think of. If I'm struggling to figure out the point, I'll watch a guide video and rehearse those combos until I remember them, and then I can start playing around with them. I'll glance at some lists, and if I see an interesting new card or engine, I'll toss in 3 copies and try it from there. The deck will go over 100 cards. There's no need to have a clean list until you're ready to pilot this deck in a tournament, and at that point, you will already be skilled enough to come up with your own ratios. In summary, the traditional rules of deck building are no longer relevant, and you should not worry at all about ratios when learning a new deck or looking at someone else's. Believe in your abilities. Believe in the heart of the cards. Do not assume that anyone has this game solved. Not even chess is a solved game, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is way better than chess, okay? It's got dragons, and Wadapon, and 1,000 hot princesses, and like 3 whole decks for the gays. It doesn't have brand flakes, though. Because there's always room for improvement. Alright, now back to the Cotton thing. This is a little indulgent because I wish I had made this video a year ago, but it's my YouTube channel and I get to pick the movie. I'm going to prove that basic Crystal Beasts were always the superior combo strategy. One disclaimer, I have nothing against Cotton. I don't know if he's ever claimed this deck was perfect, but once you give the masses a deck list, they will take it as gospel. I want you to see what's possible when you see a spicy new deck from a pro player and you think, no, I can do better. I am going to draw the same exact cards he did and make a better board without needing those advanced bricks. To ensure that I have no possible advantage, I will keep the advanced Crystal Beast, and I won't use it. In fact, it's going to be about as useful as Bastion. Like with Cotton, I will start by using Bond to add Sapphire to my hand and a Rainbow to the back row, and we will use Valence World, crack the Rainbow, and you get a level 4 and the big Rainbow Dragon in hand. Like him, I'm going to use Awakening to go into Bond here, because we don't have Golden Rule. I'm going to play that Heart, so we get a free normal summon of Sapphire, which is going to place our second Sapphire. I'll use Rainbow Bridge of the Heart now, he didn't use it until later. Destroying the Sapphire, adding to my hand Crystal Beacon, which I will use to go into Ruby, and then summon both of these, getting me 2 more crystals. At this point, I'm going to use Valence World to special summon Emerald to the zone above it, and then, like Cotton, I'm going to go for Dugary's the Timeless, just for an extra summon, so that's going to resummon Sapphire and get another crystal. Now at this point, I'm going to use the last effective Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, bouncing it along with the Valence World we gave the opponent. It's a surprise tool that will help us later. Well, later is kind of like right now, because next we go into Saryuja Skuldred. These are the 4 cards which Cotton drew. Because our combos went in different directions, I was able to keep this card in hand and bounce these 2 back in. The number of cards in your hand is very important when resolving Saryuja, because every useless card you have gets turned into another draw. Cotton had to put back Rainbow Bridge here, but we've got plenty of spares. So we get to keep everything we got off Saryuja and start going nuts. Foolish Burial Goods, sending Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. That is going to search for another Crystal Beast and a field spell. Ancient City, Rainbow Ruins, and oh yeah, we are loading up that Rainbow. Saryuja's effect will special summon Sapphire, getting another crystal. Then we trade Saryuja for World Sea, which will resummon all monsters on the field, getting 2 more crystals. I am grabbing these 2 out of the graveyard. And then, because we have not used our normal summon yet, we can play Cobalt here, and then use 2 different monsters to make the Crochet Sheep. And because we have at least 4 crystals, we get to draw again. So let's say, welcome back Bastion. We'll just use this to represent any draw. Now we're ready to summon the Rainbow Dragon, trade it for Over Dragon, which triggers Crochet. Now here's where it gets really fun, because I'm going to summon Ruby, triggering Ruby's effect to summon. Ruby's only going to summon 1 monster though, and that's going to trigger Sapphire, placing another one. Yeah, that's a lot of crystals, so now we get to go for a 4 material Apollo, and use the 5th effect of Rainbow Ruins to special summon Ruby, which is going to move these back up, triggering Sapphire again, getting us back to 3 crystals. As long as you have 3 crystals, Rainbow Ruins lets you negate spells and traps. We can throw in Rainbow Bridge, get another Crystal Miracle, and set these. And that's basically my turn. I've got 4 monster negates, 4 spell and trap negates, 2 omni negates, that's 10 negates in total, and if you want, you can still use 2 of your negates to get a Floodgate. We did not summon Rainbow Dragon Overdrive this turn, but as I said earlier, that's not a good move. An underrated advantage that my combo gets is that we didn't link off World Sea Dragon Zealantis, which means it stays co-linked to Apollo, letting it destroy 2 cards during the battle phase so the opponent can't attack over her. And we did that all without the advanced bricks or even Golden Rule. The advanced blend does have more ways to open with Overdrive, but it also has more ways to brick and end on nothing. And it's not like a regular Crystal Beast deck loses if it doesn't open full combo. Maybe I have a 50% chance to summon Rainbow Dragon, and the advanced blend has 80%, but a combo control build also gains a 40% chance to pivot into a control setup. Successful competitive decks are those which can bait out disruption and take branching paths when things go wrong. But nobody wanted to hear that. Jesse Cotton showed a deck list, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a solved game now. Again, nothing against him personally. That was a cool deck. I think it's awesome that he tries new ideas. My issue is with the Sheeple. Not a good deck, the only deck, not that we've tried anything else. It's like there's a cult around this guy. Don't assume his decks are solved. Don't assume my decks are solved. Build on what I show you and make it your own. I do have more opinions on Advanced Crystal Beasts. I think they're quite good, but I play them very differently from everyone else. Let me know in the comments if there's much interest in another guide video about Advanced Crystal Beasts. Until then, I'm very tired. I guess I will just never stop making videos that take way too much effort. Like and subscribe before I die of exhaustion. Bye!